Good evening, and welcome to another edition of For the Living of These Days, the Masks edition. There's so much talk about masks these days, physical especially, and the rhetoric, the rhetoric being so violent or determined that one might ask, what is a mask behind the mask, of fear, hatred, identity? Let's delve past the physical mask question into the very depths of the masks we wear to protect ourselves. I've been wrestling with that, and it was all arose from a poem that I remembered of a mask, We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. And his mask was perpetuated by racism. The poem goes, "We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears in sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but, O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the smile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask." So We Wear the Mask is written by Dunbar in 1895. And much of Dunbar's work, especially in We Wear the Mask, is a reaction to the experience of being black in America in the late 19th century, following the Civil War, a period when life seemed to have improved for black Americans, yet in reality was still marked by intense racism and hardship. Dunbar compares surviving the pain of oppression to wearing a mask that hides the suffering of its wearer while presenting a more joyful face to the world. All this said, the poem itself does not specifically mention race, but its message is applicable. It's also applicable to any circumstance in which marginalized people are forced to present a brave face in order to survive in an unsympathetic, prejudiced society. And tell me how things have changed since the 19th century, both with race, but also when anyone is oppressed or judged in this world. Each of us create our own masks that hide our deepest pain. Another quote I came across this week was William Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet. As Romeo proclaims, "He jests at scars that never felt a wound." He jests at scars that never felt a wound. Meaning, when someone mocks or discounts a real grief, a feeling, a pain, or oppression, where he or she, himself or herself, has not experienced that loss or feeling, is jesting at scars that never felt a wound. In the midst of that, I kept going deeper into the question of the masks we wear, and in a blog in Psychology Today, I found one that even reveals more deeply. So those of us right here, right now, to examine the masks we wear beyond cloth, because the cloth is helping to save another person's life as wearing a mask in a pandemic. But each of us, though, have our own masks that hide pain or suffering or betrayal. and put on a front to a world. So Susan Sparks writes, in Masks We Wear, in her blog, Imposter Syndrome and Why We Sometimes Feel Like a Fake. She writes, then there are the emotional masks, the masks we hide behind because of fear. For example, if we are insecure, we might hide behind the mask of name dropping, or we are unsure of our power, we can hide behind the mask of being a bully, or if we don't think the world loves us, we can hide behind a mask of anger. We mask the debt we've incurred to pay for lifestyles we can't afford, or we pretend things are fine at work when our jobs are on the line. We pretend things are okay in our marriages when there is distance. What masks do you wear? Again, as we read earlier, that Dunbar speaks of masks in the area of oppression and how one just tries to survive. But each of us have that survival instinct in our masks. She goes on, one of the most common reasons we wear masks is what I think of as imposter syndrome. The fear that the world is going to find us out. I've heard it described as a feeling like a fake, like you don't really belong, or you aren't really successful, but are just posing as such. It's like my Halloween costume at age 7, she writes. I dressed up as a zombie gypsy until my next door neighbor yanked off my mask and said, "Oh, it's just you." One of our greatest fears is that if we show our true selves, the world will say, "Oh, it's just you." But being just you is actually the best and most perfect thing you could ever be. As Oscar Wilde said, and I love this quote by Oscar Wilde, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Or if you are interested in the spiritual perspective, there's the Psalm 139. It's another psalm that I have thought about all week. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So, the masks created by oppression to survive, just to survive, or the masks that are created out of fear of being found out to be a fraud, or the masks we wear so no one can truly find out who we really are. Those are the masks that we need to discard, to somehow find who God created as the image of God within us, in spite of how the world defines us, even at the pain of being revealed of who we are, then truly finding out that who we are is beautiful. So we can self-medicate behind masks of addiction, afraid of loving ourselves, medicating old wounds of abuse or self-hatred. We can medicate with you name it. Oscar Wilde died at the hands of a world that would not allow him to be who he was created to be as a gay man. He was imprisoned for who he chose to love. Be yourself, everyone else is taken. Live into those words. Loving God with all that you are, created in the image of the divine. We are all created in the image of the divine. Black, white, gay, straight, male, female, rich, poor. Loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's the trick, is that the way that you love your neighbor is how you love yourself. And the more that you can love yourself, embrace who you are, truly created in the divine image, can liberate you to see that divine image in your neighbor and love them with that same fervor and passion. The operative, love yourself. Love the person God created you to be, formed by selfless God love, compassion. So in essence, be gentle with yourself when the world is not so gentle or violent or judgmental. In a time of physical masking, and the politics of it all, take this time to acknowledge the social and the spiritual, the emotional and the mental masks that you wear or attempted to wear that conceal the person God created you to be. And be the best version of yourself, free from the fear of being who the world defines you as, whether it is by the color of your skin or by the person you love or even the dreams that you have, or the justice that you seek to stand for, the injustice that you seek to stand against. Find the courage to live that out. You are enough. Liberate yourself from the masks of denial and pain. Psalm 139. Meditate with these words. O Lord, you have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down. You are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as day, and the darkness is as light to you. For it was you who formed my inward parts and knit me together in my mother's womb. And I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And wonderful are your works that I know very well. If we could live into this relationship to God, who then defines who we are in ourselves, would liberate us to live more fully into this world, no matter what the world, how the world would define us. If we can live into that. I know it's not perfect, because we will always seek to be distracted by this world that defines us. So I'll conclude again with Susan Sparks, as she writes in her article. We weren't born with masks. We put them on so we can take them off. Start with this simple exercise. Think about a negative message you have heard and you have held on to. Ask yourself whether it is true. More than likely the answer is no. And if it is not, then you have to ask these questions. Why am I carrying that message? If I put it down, what would happen? Probably nothing. The main risk we face is the world's reaction. Opening yourself up threatens others. It invites them to reevaluate their own lives. Many times it forces them to realize that they too have the power to change, but they haven't. Don't let that stop you. Don't pull your mask partially off and let the world scare you into putting it back on. As the poet E. E. Cummings wrote, the greatest battle we face as human beings is the battle to protect our true selves from the self the world wants us to become. So think about the masks you wear. Commit to taking them off. Hold your gifts to the world. No apology, no shame, no regret. As the old saying goes, every creature has its rightful place. And in that place, it becomes beautiful. So know that God has created you and that you are beautiful. And that God continues to call you out into a beautiful world to help other people discover the beauty in themselves and the God image in themselves. So let us wear the physical mask for love of our neighbor, and let us remove those emotional masks, those mental masks, for love of the world, love of ourselves. Till we meet again. Peace.